The biggest one is becoming a unit. Um, a unit that can contend for a Big 12 championship. And with so many new guys, and then installing a new system, it's just everybody's really starting from scratch. And so there's a major process of becoming one and all doing it together. And obviously that takes there's so many things that go into that. And part of it's just learning, what we do and getting lined up fast and operating fast and with the effort that we expect, and then the coaching points, and then executing what we expect, right? And then, owning the accountability, owning it and fixing it. So, we talk about red line around here all the time, and that's Coach B's, big that's his big standard here, the standard of what we're going to do at Arizona, and that starts with effort, and then it goes to execution, and then it goes to accountability. So, we're just basically installing a scheme and installing the standard of play that we expect from them.
Noah was saying he's never been in offense this quick. What are the benefits of no huddle and I guess just playing fast?
Yeah, I think obviously it's a huge advantage, especially late in the game. Um, but it's only an advantage if you can execute it, right? So we talk about this all the time. Like tempo can be a weapon, but it's only a weapon if we're doing it the right way. If we're lining up fast, if we're intentional with the details, if we're disciplined and then our assignment, how we're executing it. If we're not, then we're just playing fast to go 3 and out as fast as possible. Okay, so and that obviously is a disadvantage. So there's parts to that do give you an advantage, but at the end of the day, if we're not executing at a high level, then tempo does not give you the advantage that we expect it to late in the game.
When you look at the quarterback room and how they're moving along in terms of the progression of the playbook, where are they in your assessment, and how has Noah helped the rest of the guys, and even though he's learning, pick up the playbook as well?
I've been actually really impressed with our quarterbacks because I've probably installed more than I've ever installed in the first 4 days here, and it's because Noah and Braden allow me to, because they are so cerebral, they're professionals, extremely intelligent. But obviously you've been around quarterbacks that are intelligent, but the most impressive thing with both of those guys is they can process it. For the most part, when we go out on the field, they're executing at a high level. Now, there's some stuff, obviously, that they're going to make a mistake on just because it's new and fresh, and it might be a look that we weren't, expecting, and so they make the wrong decision, whatever it may be, or make the wrong throw, the wrong read in the progression, whatever it may be. But the greatest thing about it is that accountability part is both of them will own it and fix it immediately. And so it's been a very from an install standpoint, man, we've gotten 90% of the offense already in, and with a lot of flavor. It's not just like your typical hey, let's put like a base formation in with a base play and let's get really, really good at it, which I do believe in that. But those two guys have allowed us to really put some flavor on what we're doing so far, and I feel like we're ahead of the curve from that standpoint.
Noah, after the first practice when he was doing the interviews here, he said, I thought I was going fast, but then you guys were saying, got to be faster, got to be faster. So he was a little shocked at, the speed of it. How difficult is it for a player to pick up on that in terms of practicing?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge for the offense, and I can only speak for the offense, is changing the mentality of, what we expect and what our standard is, all right? And so, I think that's what he's referring to when he said that, is like after the first day, they felt like we were going fast, and in my eyes, that wasn't the standard. The standard can be faster. And so we're trying to push it to the extreme limits, and if we can, and we can execute it, then I think we can be really dangerous. Like I said, I think obviously with beating defenses to lining up, them, not being able to sub, and then like I said, like late in the game, their lung capacity isn't the same as ours because that's what we do every day.
I have two questions for you about the offensive line. The first one, in general, what are you asking of the offensive linemen that might be different from what they were doing before, and what's that learning curve?
I feel like me and Coach Oglesby have really, we've really hit it off. We're working really well together. So I've taken a lot of what he's done in the past and applied it to what we're doing, what I want to do schematically. And so some of the stuff that he feels very comfortable coaching has been, relatively the same in general terms. But probably the hardest part, for those old linemen right now is having to, find ways to finish practice because we are playing in a up pace tempo offense. So they're just not used to that. Most of them, whether they transferred here or they played here last year, that's just not what they did. And so having to process, I think the offensive line is probably the hardest job in college football because there's so many different fundamental details that you have to master. There's an ID, process to every play that you have to understand, like what you're getting from a front standpoint, from a pressure standpoint, from an alignment standpoint. And doing all that really fast is really hard. And so that's probably the most challenging thing for the offensive line so far that I've asked them to do that they haven't done in the past is execute tempo. And even when we're not playing with like our tempo, our fast tempo, we still got lined up fast and we still try to press the pedal. So, I think it's my job to kind of like, control the tempo by holding the call, but I want those guys lined up fast. I want to ID fast. So, it always perceives that we're playing with pace.
That leads perfectly to my next question, which is specifically about center. What are you looking for in a center in this system, and what are that player's responsibilities?
To me, the center is just an extension of the quarterback. We ask a lot of that guy because I try to take some of it off the quarterback and put it on the center from an ID standpoint. So he's got to be very intelligent, be able to process and different types of, like I said, different types of front, different types of alignments. He's got to know the structure of the coverage shell at times to understand what he's getting, front side, back side, whatever it may be, whatever the scheme is. And so he's got to have a ton of communication skills because he's communicating, he's making that whole thing go. And then he's got to have a little, in my terms, this is, take it for what it's worth. He's got to have a little dog in him, and I feel like the best centers I've ever been around had a little edge to them, whether they were, short, big, fast, strong, explosive. It didn't matter. At the end of the day, they just had a ton of heart. And, our guy Marshall last year, he wasn't very athletic. He wasn't very explosive, but he had the heartbeat of the entire offensive line, and they listened to him. And he was tough as nails, and he made us go. So I put a lot of stock into the center, and because that guy does a lot for us. And like I said, he's the first one that touches the ball, and he chases the ball every play. And so he's the first one to get lined up and get us going. So it's a major major piece for what we do, and that guy has to be, like I said, he's got to be a dog.
Excuse me, when you were at Marshall last year, what was it like learning the coach-to-player communication in the helmet, and how has that been in the early stages this year?
It was unique at first, but I've really come to love it. And like I said, since we're playing with a no huddle and playing we're operating no huddle and playing with pace, playing with tempo, it allows me to see the picture. And then when it ends up being a longer play call, I can help the quarterback by telling him what the protection is. You remind him on a little tip and reminder there, whether it be, hey, we're in a certain set, so you don't have a backside route. Remember that. Or, sometimes, I can see it quicker than he can see it, and maybe we flip the protection. Or I can get us into a better play just because they're aligned fast and I can still talk to him. But it only works if we align fast, right? Because we get cut off. So part of our process of playing with tempo and aligning fast is allow me to communicate as much information as I can to Noah or Braden, whoever's in there, so it allows them to have the best chance to have success.
And then what do you think about your collection of running backs and how they're going to be used in the offense?
Yeah, I think Zoe and Law have done a great job with those guys through the offseason of creating a standard there. I think that room's extremely tough. I think there's every single one of them bring a little bit of a different skill set to the table. So it's going to be unique to go through this process of spring ball and summer and figure out how we're going to use them as a unit, right? Because like I said, they all, Marty's fast. Quincy has a little bit of a feel in space. Ked can kind of do it all, a little bit more powerful. And Mike's super explosive, right? And then we got the young guys coming in to see what they can do. But it's going to be unique to see, how that continues to progress. And then I have to do a great job of understanding what they do best and try to, put us in a position to have the most success each play with that specific runner in.
You talked about working with Coach Oglesby with the offensive line, and you're working with Coach Brennan to a degree, I guess, with wide receivers, right? Because that's kind of his position. What are some of the things that you've learned from him, maybe about coaching wide receivers, and how is that kind of relationship?
The first unit meeting I ever had, I challenged the receivers. Okay, and this is what I believe in this offense, in this specific scheme. I've been at places where you had really, really good receiver play, at times elite receiver play, and this offense really goes. And then I've been at places where you didn't have that, and the offense, struggles tremendously in the pass game. So for us to do what we want to do, that receiver play has to be, executed at a high level. And I really believe that we can get them there because of Coach Wade and Coach Brennan. Because, walking through this building, when I did that, challenged the receivers, the standard of that position has been the same, before I got here. Bobby expects that. Coach Brennan expects that. And so for me, as a coordinator and a guy that's installing an offense that, puts a lot of premium on a receiver play, it's just good to know those guys see it through the same lens. And honestly, if I'm being completely transparent, it was one of the reasons I actually decided to come to Arizona was Bobby Wade. Just because I believe in him and I know that position group has to be coached and held accountable and loved and recruited and all that stuff. I mean, he's just so good at what he does. So I'm extremely excited about him. And like you said, I've learned, every practice I hear Coach Brennan give a coaching point to a receiver, or whether it be in a meeting that he's talking to the entire team or the unit, and he brings something unique to the table, and I write it down just because I've never heard of it that way. It might be said, it might be something that we do, but it's communicated a little bit maybe more simple, or it makes more sense to do it the way he's talking about. So obviously anything that he said, because he's done it for such a long time, I'll listen and try to apply. So, obviously I said this from the start of that question, that receiver group is we need them to be really good for us to go. And they know that because we talk about it every day. And I believe in those guys. I believe in Coach Wade, and I love that our head coach believes in the standard as well.
So to go kind of off that question as well, Coach Wade mentioned last week that he believes your offense is structured to get a couple guys over 1,000 yards. That's pretty high praise. What's your early assessment of the kind of wide receiver group, even the tight ends, any potential standouts as well that you're seeing so far?
I think we have a lot of speed. So it's going to be fun to get creative and find different matchups, for guys like Watley, Hudson. Chris Hunter's made some plays. Spivey's a big body outside. Phelps is a big body outside. JP's, obviously extremely twitchy. Luke is really tough and fast. So it's kind of honestly, it's a little bit like the running back room where, yeah, we may have the same body types at some positions, but all of them bring a little bit something unique and different from a skill set level to the table. And so it's going to be fun. And it's going to be fun to figure out what they can do and what they're really, really good at it, and then kind of what they struggle with, and put them in positions to have success. And obviously, it's just day 3, right? We just had our 3rd practice, so we're still trying to figure out who can do what, and we're working through that process. And we talk about this all the time. It's on the wall in our team room. It's a process over outcome operation, and so I'm not necessarily looking for them to execute at extreme high level right now. More, looking for them to, practice by the standard that we expect. And but I am encouraged by some guys early. I think Watley's speed is going to be a problem, and he's made some big time plays. Chris Hudson is super natural and fluid and does a lot of good things. I love Phelps' size, and I think he's starting to become his own person and utilize that and feel confident in what he's doing. And like I said, Luke Wysong, he's tough as nails, man. I mean, he'll go fight you, and so he's kind of our bulldog, even though he has, a really good skill level. And I can go on and on. Chris Hunter, obviously, if you talk to guys last year, he kind of came on the scene late last year and really helped them. He's continuing to progress. He does some really, really special things in practice. So just really excited about the group and where they can go. Obviously, we're not there yet, but I believe in the group, and I believe in who's leading them. And I do think by the end of this, we'll have a position group of wideouts that we can use as a weapon. So.
Lastly, Justin. Sawyer Anderson, 14,000 yards in Dallas. When did he come on your radar, and just what do you think about the quarterback he is and just his legacy as a Dallas quarterback?
Yeah, so we had Sawyer committed at Purdue when I was the tight end coach, and when I was the tight end coach for Graham, Graham Harrell is probably the biggest mentor I've ever had since coaching and honestly playing too, because he was a stud when I was at Texas Tech. But part of our process of working together is we recruited the quarterback together, just because we saw it through the same lens, and both of us believed in the same, like looking for the same skill set, for the intangibles, et cetera, of what we want in a quarterback. And so we both believed in him at Purdue, ended up, committing him at Purdue, and we had a coaching change. And so obviously had the opportunity to bring him here, and I'm super excited about him. Obviously, just like we've talked about, what you guys have seen on tape, of his high school tape, he's very, very twitchy. He has the ability to run. The ball comes out of his hand extremely fast and quick, and he can process very quickly. I've been very impressed on how well he's picked up this offense because of the speed of install we're going at because of Noah and Braden, right? And he is right there. I mean, for a freshman to be able to pick it up like that and be able to spit it back to me in a meeting, or go out there and execute a play, like he did a couple of them today. He did a good job. It's been very impressive. So I'm excited about Sawyer. He has he's a long way to go still. He's still learning how to play the position, because obviously transitioning from high school to college at the D1 level, especially in the Big 12, there's so much more demand to the position that I think he's learning, as we go.
All right, that's our time.
Yeah. Appreciate you guys.